Hello everybody and welcome to Mosh Talks with me, Beez, right here on the KNOTFEST YouTube channel. I should probably point out at this juncture that this is something of a pilot episode because I'm still waiting for my good webcam to turn up. I'm still waiting for my microphone to turn up, but we didn't want to be missing out on being part of this huge launch from KNOTFEST and KNOTFEST.com. So here it is. This is what we're going to be doing every single Tuesday. So make sure you're subscribed to this channel where I'm going to be talking to all of the bands out there making rock, metal, punk, hardcore and alternative a great place to be. And that doesn't just include massive bands, but we will have huge arena and festival headlining bands, but we're also interested in going out there and finding creative, challenging, interesting shit. I mean, that should be our tagline for the show. Mosh Talk includes interesting shit. But seriously, we are going to be bringing you really great interviews with the best bands around every single Tuesday right here on the KNOTFEST YouTube channel. I'll tell you a bit more about some of the other things going on around KNOTFEST, including Sean Clown Crayon's very own podcast. I'll tell you about that, but also coming up on this here pilot episode, we talked to Matt Heafy from Trivium about their new record, What the Dead Men Say. He also hinted at a top secret project, so stick around for that. Spencer Charnas from Ice Nine Kills is going to be here. Ice Nine Kills recently recorded a tribute to Jason Voorhees' mother. And we also talk about the Halloween remake and everything about their Silver Scream album. I'm joined by Kadeem France from Loathe. Loathe are one of the best breakthrough bands to come out of the United Kingdom in some time. So I'm looking forward to talking to him and telling you all about them. And while we're on the subject of killer new bands, Irist out of Atlanta, Georgia on Nuclear Blast Records have just released their debut album, and Rodrigo is going to be joining me on the show. Finally, last but not least, Halestorm going to be here taking us behind the song on their first ever single, and they're going to be telling us about hashtag Roadie Strong and how you can donate and help road crew members from across the globe. But I mentioned some exciting news earlier, and let's take you straight to it. Sean Clown Crayon has his own podcast now, and it is called The Electric Theatre. I have been interviewing Clown since the Iowa cycle, and he has one of the most dark, intense, but engaging, and so much depth in his answers and where his brain goes to. He's always got so much to say, so I'm super interested to hear him talking about creativity and other awesome elements with people. And I've seen the guest list of who's coming up on Sean's podcast. You are going to want to subscribe from the very beginning, because episode 1 includes Jamie Morgan from Code Orange. Clown and Jamie are similar in the way that Jamie will absolutely throw his everything into every project he works on. You can hear it all over their new album Underneath, see what they're doing on Twitch, and you can see what they've done as far as selling homemade masks, all kinds of crazy stuff that involves being really in-depth and conceptual. So Sean Clown Crayon in conversation with Jamie Morgan for his first ever brand new podcast, The Electric Theatre. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts. You should also subscribe to The Downbeat. That's another podcast as part of the KNOTFEST network, and it features Craig Reynolds from Stray from the Path. I'm so glad to be able to talk about this podcast because Craig is one of the most funniest and left of centre interviewers that I have ever heard. His interviews, it started off The Downbeat with him just interviewing other drummers, but now he's branched out into other musicians and all kinds of other people. So make sure you check out The Downbeat. The new episode has V-Man from Slipknot on it. Ryan J. Downey is going to be here on the KNOTFEST YouTube channel as well with his new show, The Deep Dive. He's going to be talking to some of the biggest tastemakers from the world of alternative culture and heavy music, so make sure you check out the deep dive when it runs on this very channel. And of course, we're going to be here every single Tuesday, Mosh Talks with me, Beez. Alright, that's enough of the housekeeping. First guest ever on the show is someone that I have known since they were a teenager, and that someone is Matt Heafy. He has grown into someone that I truly believe is a really great spokesperson for heavy music. And when I say that, I think of him in the same meld as I think of someone like Rob Halford. If you meet Rob Halford and he talks to you about metal, he knows exactly what is going on the cutting edge of all of the subgenres of metal. He lives it and he loves it. And Matt has that exact same spark, and Trivium have gone on this amazing journey over the years through ups and downs, creative left turns, huge triumphs, and it's led them to their new album on Roadrunner Records. It's called What the Dead Men Say. I believe that it is the best thing Trivium have ever done. Fight me in the comments section if you must, but I swear to you, I think it's the best thing they've ever done. And yeah, here I am chatting with Matt Heafy from Trivium, the first ever Mosh Talks interview. Enjoy. Okay, so you are our first ever guest, Matt. No pressure at all. But so we spoke just before the record dropped, and I was talking about how you must be super confident with the album. Now it's out there and public reaction has been what it's been. Has it been a pretty cool couple of weeks considering the extreme circumstance we find ourselves in?
Yeah, it's been insane. I mean, when we were first ever presented with, hey guys, because of the state of the world, do you want to push your record? It was a resounding, immediate, unanimous, no, we do not want to push this record at all. We looked at it as a responsibility to get our record out to give people something to enjoy during these weird times, and we knew our fans would love it. We've always had our fans. You know, that's something that you and I have talked about a lot, that we've always had our fans, and that's why we go above and beyond. That's why I live stream every single day. That's why we do all these things, because we've always had that extreme dedication, devotion from our fans. But we've also discussed with how Trivium has really only ever been a press band on our second record in the UK, and that's pretty much it. And we've never really been like a band that other bands talk about. It's not because we don't get along with it, and we get along with many other bands just fine, but that's just always been what we've accepted as Trivium's destiny and existence. But with this record, everything has shifted. Now, press loves it. They're saying it's the best record we've ever had. Other bands are talking about it. Our fans, obviously, we knew they'd love it. So it's a really great time, despite everything going on, to be around. And I can't wait to play this stuff live. This is going to be the least metal thing that anyone is ever going to say on this channel, but it's okay because I like to do juxtapositions. We were watching the Lover Live from Paris Taylor Swift performance, and I know my manager Justin's like, damn it, Matt, why are you talking about this? But even just seeing like a live crowd, because my kids love that record, even just seeing a live crowd, I started getting like feeling weird, like kind of getting adrenaline, but getting choked up and getting sad, and like it's the first time I've seen like video of that in a little while. I don't know where I was going with that, but to not be able to do that right now is very weird. So I look forward to being able to do that. I don't know when that is. I don't know what that's going to look like, but at least we're able to get the record out. At least we're still trying to put together ways that we can show people Trivium despite these bizarre times.
Yeah, like, I mean, something that's super interesting to me is when your album comes out, with what you do on Twitch and your interactions with people, it's almost as if, like, your album then has some sort of DLC content where, like, your Twitch almost acts as something like that. When you drop an album now, is there like an avalanche of things that come with it outside of just the record? It's almost like the record has a new lease of life now via those kind of channels.
Yeah, it's really interesting. We were trying to figure out why, and I don't really have the answer for this, but we're 9 records in, 21 years into the band that I've been in, and the excitement for this band feels as if we're like this cool, brand new, exciting band. We feel more modern than ever after being around for 21 years, which almost doesn't make sense. That almost seems like the kind of thing that doesn't happen often. I don't know if it's because of how plugged in we are. I can say that, you know, we had to cancel an Asian tour. We had to cancel a 2-week press tour in Europe. I have done more press for this record than I think every single other record combined into one cycle, which is nuts. Like, I think right now during these Corona times, people are either incredibly bored with not knowing what to do, and that's why I'm trying to give content through Trivium, through what I do through Twitch, or they're the busiest that they've ever been. I just finished recording a top secret video game thing that I can't talk about, jumping into one interview to another interview to this. It's amazing. It's amazing that people want to talk to us, and I'm very happy that people want to hear what we have to say right now. We've been essentially doing press since the month before this record came out, and now essentially the month after, and we still have all these other amazing things planned that we're going to do. So I don't know. It's weird. It's like a double-edged sword. We're not able to play shows, but all these other things we're able to do.
What do you put that down to? Like, it's interesting to hear your take. Like, there is no way that you don't have at least an inkling of a why has it been this time? Like, you've mentioned, like, it feels like all of these things that might have been in place at various times, like, at one point the press might have been into something, the fans were less into it, or vice versa. Like, it's kind of flipped around a whole bunch. Like, what do you put that down to, and why now?
I mean, if we want to look at it of Trivium, it definitely is for the fact that we made I'd say one of the greatest records we've ever made in our history. I mean, that's probably definitely a part of it. I think maybe it's a little bit of how connected we are, because like I do authentically love being that connected. I've talked to, I've been teaching a lot of band guys about what Twitch is, how to do it, what the ethos is, down to like the exacts, like the software, the hardware, what you need. And I guess sometimes band guys are like, that's a little bit too much for me, and they go the other way. Some of the ones want to jump in. I mean, I authentically love it. I've always just felt this need and want to give our fans everything, because they've always given us everything. So I think that's just been an extension of me, and having the 3 years of that. Maybe it's a little bit of that, but it's also our band is in the best headspace we've ever been. We're the best at what we do than ever. I can confidently say, and I don't mean this to sound cocky, but at least for the sense of me, I am the best singer, screamer, guitar player that I have ever been. And I can say that we are the best band we have ever been. So maybe it's that. Maybe it's the fact that all these years are having all these different divisive moments of our band of 8 different records that sounded completely different from the previous, collecting and losing different fans as each one went, and everyone's now unified with this one. Maybe it's a bit of that. I don't know. I'd like to know your perspective, because I think that you'll be able to see it better than I can even.
Totally. I think, like, I'll tell you, but honestly, from the press's side, I think there's always been an enormous amount of goodwill towards Trivium, because you were teenagers when you came through. Do you know what I mean? We've known you for that amount of time, so there's always a certain amount of goodwill. And when momentum is on your side, like I read an interview you did with Metal Hammer where you were talking about you create the best stuff that you create when you're happy. So I kind of wondered what got you to, when was that moment came? Was there a breakthrough of happiness that came that really stands out in recent years?
I mean, it's definitely having our lineup sorted. I know every time we've ever, quote, changed a drummer, it's become a meme. Well, I like that it's a meme and not something that's serious. We've only had 4 studio drummers. But finally having this proper lineup with 4 guys of the same, everyone only sees the stuff that they see. The Trivium from stage, the stuff that they hear, Trivium from record. They make up their own idea of what the dynamic of a band is within their own head, but they don't see what's going on behind closed doors. And we finally do have a lineup where the 4 of us are all of the same correct mind space that we need everyone to be, and the correct caliber of musician that we need them to be. So I think that has been really liberating to not have to worry about that. And that's the stuff that, like, I won't even really delve into what those other additional woes and worries were, but to finally have 4 guys that can pull off anything the band needs to pull off. Everything's natural, everything's organic, everything is not pre-planned. We made this record, we didn't think, we want a song that does this, we want a fast song, a slow song, we need to fill this quota, this song should be long. We said I don't remember us setting any rules other than let's make 9 songs. That's all we said. We didn't say, let's have a this song or a that song. Everything just happened naturally without us even having to speak. I think that says a lot to the components of the band, that we are all for one and one for all, and that all of us speak the same language without ever having to even speak it. We speak it musically. So I think the fact that it's effortless now, whereas the 3 records, my 3 least favorite of our discography, The Crusade, Vengeance Falls, and Silence, while I am very proud of some of the songs off those records, those were 3 times in our history where we said, let's stay in this lane. Let's not go over here. Let's not go over there. The latter 2 of which we allowed, because we wanted to, a producer to steer the ship. And those are all ingredients that we recognize aren't us. And what Trivium needs to be is a band that has no rules. We can't say we shouldn't do this on a record. We can't say we shouldn't have this on a record. We also are not meant to be led by anyone other than the four of us. So recognizing those things and knowing those things, and I need to constantly remind myself of those things, and you as well, of a friend, you being a friend of mine, if I ever say something weird, like, all right, we're dropping double bass, or I'm stopping screaming again, you need to call me out, and you need to text me, like, dude, you told me to make a promise with you, you can't do that. And I've told 2 people that in my life now. The only 2 people I've told, if I do this again, tell me. But I also think it's cool that we did that, and I'm surprised that we were able to survive through 8 records that were completely different. With those ups and downs, we've upset some lifers, but we've also brought in some new people. We've also shown that we don't want to do the same thing every time. And Dead Men is very different from Sin. And sometimes they'll try to say, oh, these last 2 records are similar, but the only thing they're similar in is that they are reflections of everything that came before. Whereas Dead Men, it kind of engulfs and encapsulates everything that records 1 through 8 on one record. And I imagine 10. Damn, we're on record 10. So with 10, we won't set any rules. We'll just be like, let's make songs. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if people like it or people dislike it. All that matters is that we like it.
Tell me if I'm kind of getting my psychiatrist on a little bit here, but it feels like possibly confidence plays a big part in this. When you've got a solid lineup and you've got a vibe between you, you don't have to put restrictions on yourself, and you don't have to look to someone else when you fully trust each other. Am I reading too much into it, or is there an element of that?
That's definitely correct, because a huge thing of me is I'm a very high anxiety person. I know maybe I seem like it, maybe I don't, I'm not really sure. But what I recognized quells that is staying incredibly busy. And the other thing is being so overly practiced in everything I do. I don't like to do anything in front of anyone if I haven't done it an obsessive amount of times. So thanks to 3 ingredients, blowing my voice out and having to retrain it and relearn how to sing, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which showed me what it is to instill that regimentation onto something in life, and Twitch streaming with having that schedule that I am not playing games, I'm playing music 75 to 90% of the time to people. Those 3 things have made me a better singer, screamer than I've ever been. So now when I go on tour, it's not a matter of me getting in shape before going on tour. It's not a matter of me getting in shape before doing a record. I treat it like, I imagine, the way an athlete does. And I spoke to Baron Corbin about this, and he agreed that is the way an athlete does it. You're year-round in shape. You are constantly in shape. You're never taking those cycles of, I've made it. And you've seen musicians like this. I've seen musicians like this. I might have been a musician like this. You put out a record or 2, you're signed. I don't need to practice anymore. I've made it. I've met so many bands younger than me that don't warm up before they play on shows. Sure, some don't need to. But some don't need to and sound good, and some don't need to and absolutely need to. And for me, that's why I'm singing 2 to 4 to 5 hours, 5 days a week off tour when there's no tour in sight, to just stay constantly. Whether I have to go on tour tomorrow or make a record tomorrow, I am in shape to do that. And having that confidence in knowing that you're not going to worry is a big thing. I had one musician once say to me, they're like, well, isn't that incredibly not punk rock? Isn't that incredibly not rock and roll that you practice that much and there's all these methods and these reasonings and the mechanical components of knowing how to sing? Isn't that not punk rock and roll? I said, actually, I would disagree, and I would say that it's the most punk rock and roll thing in the world. To be this rehearsed when I'm off tour, put in the time that no one has to see. When I walk out on stage, I don't have to think about anything. I don't have to think, am I going to hit that high note? Is my screaming going to work? Do I know this guitar part? Is my arm going to give out? I don't have to think about anything. I just go up, and at that point, it becomes muscle memory and reflex. And that's what happened at Download 2005. All the hours that we've ever put in up until that point, we should have been terrible that day. I was hungover. My voice sounded like crap. Our guitars weren't in tune. I wasn't warmed up. It was freezing cold. We thought no one was there. Then everyone popped up. We went into such an extreme adrenaline dump, I don't remember playing the show. But thankfully, all those, quote, 10,000 hours or whatever it may have been that we put into put that survival mode to happen. And so now I try to treat everything in life the same way. That's also a fundamental learn from Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, that when you're thinking in Jiu-Jitsu in the first 1 to 5 to 6 years, and you're thinking when you're grappling is when you're steps behind your opponent. Because your opponent or your partner, they don't have to think about it because they've done it so much that it becomes muscle memory. They know exactly, their body knows what to do before their brain has to think about it. And that's how I try to make everything that I do. And I believe that that's how everyone in my band does it. So having that confidence and knowing within myself that I'm prepared, and then to know that the other 3 guys in my band are that prepared as well, it makes us feel unstoppable. So it's the same kind of confidence that we would have had in the beginning, but it's shifted. It's more mature, and it's backed up by something. We know exactly what we're capable of because we put the work to stay in that place.
And does it get, I mean, it must be a nightmare now when it comes to picking set lists. You're 9 albums deep. I know how much you loved the last record as well as this, as well as having a canon now. Like, have you started thinking about, and as someone who like meticulously says, I have to have this rehearsed and the rest of it, does that affect set list choices? I always remember there was like a Metallica story that was like, Jason Newsted was from the Matt Heafy style of thought of like, no, like anything we're going to play, we have to know inside out, backwards, front to back. Does that kind of thing affect the set list, and how does a set list get picked in 2020?
I mean, now with having 9 records, we're always going to bum somebody out, guaranteed. Like, there's going to be a portion of the audience that's always upset that we missed something, which is fine. But that's why, like, I'm so fortunate that I have my stream, because I don't treat it like a show. I'm not in there, like, rocking out, because it doesn't make sense for the context of what it is. But I now know Ember, Ascendancy, Waves, Shogun, Sin, and Dead Men perfectly. Those 6 records I have 100% down every single song, which I didn't have before. Before it would be, I'd have the set list ready, I'd have a couple old songs ready to go, but that's really it. But now having those 6 ready and at least a quarter to half of the other 3 as well, that's the key. So we usually like to discuss set list way early. Like, we had the Asia set list set up, so we would have all learned that in and out and perfectly. And if we ever do want to do the thing where we improvisation throw in a couple songs for fun, those are songs that we have rehearsed as well. And luckily, everyone in my band has that same attitude. We all like to have things incredibly prepared. Before my wedding with my wife, with Ashley, the thing I was most stressed out about was dancing in front of people. Like, I remember us getting in like an argument. I was getting just like so stressed out. I was like, I can't dance in front of people. She's like, you can. Like, what are you talking about? No one cares. It's like, no, I can't do it. I ended up doing it. I was very nervous. I looked stupid. But it's because, like I said, I have to practice something I'm going to do an incessant amount of times before I'm ready to do it. Like with Trivium shows, I'm sure when we come back into it, we'll have that kind of peak, kind of higher adrenaline normals because it's been a while. But once we're in touring form, it's just fun. It's not, I don't feel the peaks and valleys of nerves and adrenaline. But when I was doing acoustic shows before, and I only ever done 1 or 2 of them, before those I was a mess. Not puking or anything, but just shaking, nervous, anxious, anxiety-ridden. When I did my first Fortnite competition on stream, Fortnite Rivals, I was shaking. And then I did one in person at the Full Sail esports arena where I actually competed. I was shaking. So if it's something that I haven't done a lot, I get that adrenaline dump. But the first time I ever competed in jiu-jitsu, I remember slapping hands with my opponent, adrenaline dump, blacked out. And when I came to from the blackout, my opponent was strangling me. He was 12-0, and my face was turning purple. So it's like it was the same thing. And I did not put enough of those muscle memory hours to know what to do when all that happened. So I got my ass kicked. But I kind of do well from that. I do well in putting myself into the fire, getting my ass kicked brutally, publicly, and then coming out and recognizing what I did wrong. And I think I do best from that.
So two questions here. First up, what was first dance at your wedding? What was the song?
Saturday Night by the Misfits.
Oh, nice!
Yeah,
Nice!
Yeah. Perfect song. But I dance like crap to it.
And the second thing is, what is the song that you are most nervous about bumping from the set list? Like, what is the one that stands out that you're like, I don't think there's space for it anymore? But like, anything that you're particularly nervous about dropping?
I guess we've had to do that a lot. We like Flies has disappeared for a little while, Martyr has disappeared for a little while, Gunshot, but those kind of like rotating with each other. If any one of my bandmates ever said In Waves had to go, I'd say we can't. Like, we can never lose that song. Which one would I be bummed out for having to go? I don't know, Down from the Sky can never not be in a set. I know it's more like which ones are becoming more apparent that can really never go.
Right.
Like, there always has to be an Ascendancy single. There always has to be a Shogun single. There always has to be an In Waves single, which is cool. Like, we're kind of not comparing ourselves to them. We're not as great as them, but we're treading into that Maiden territory where people are like, I need to hear at least a song from this record because I love this record. I think that's a really cool, exciting, fun thing. Same like Metallica, and that's why I like that every record has been so different. I think that people, I don't think you and I forget, but I think people as a whole maybe forget. Every Metallica record is vastly different than the previous. Or if you can grab 2 randomly from their catalog and put them up against each other, I mean, Loathe is incredible. I know that's a controversial take, perhaps, but I think Loathe is absolutely incredible, and it's nothing like Ride the Lightning, and Ride the Lightning is also incredible. And it's cool that you can see, like, all these records are so different. I mean, Kill 'Em All Through, Loathe were incredibly different. Load and Reload are of the same world, but then when they did S&M and Garage, those were so different than those. So I think it's really fun and exciting when that happens.
And you were due to go out with Megadeth, right? And like I've seen you play with Maiden and those kind of things. What are the pros and cons to doing those kind of major gigs? Like there is no con to a tour that is Megadeth, Lamb of God, and Trivium for where I sit. Like, but what are the things that you really get jazzed about getting to do shows with those enormous names, like the kind of that wrote the book?
I feel like it's easier than it used to be. I remember always hearing stories about like the 90s or like the kind of late 90s. If you went out and opened up for Slayer, your band would get bottled all the time. If you went and opened up for Metallica or a heavy band, you just get trashed. Now things are a lot nicer.
Maiden, man. I watched the Murder Dolls get eaten in Europe.
See, we're on the tail end of that. Now I see like a lot of like pretty light bands going out supporting Maiden and not getting crushed. So I think we were the last band of that realm, because when we went out with Maiden, I think the first show was Cardiff, Wales, that we played in the UK with Maiden. And I made sure the first thing I said to the crowd was, it's good to be home. Because I knew that was going to be a hot take. So we started getting bottles thrown at us, and I just smiled, laughing. Like, I did something kind of like young, cocky Matt Heafy version. But it ended up winning the crowd over. So we had been conditioned by that fire. I mean, when we co-headlined the UK with Slayer, it was Trivium and Slayer, Mastodon and Amon Amarth. I mean, that's one of the sickest bills I ever heard of in my life. We went out there in Manchester, I remember, and I said, how you all doing tonight? And I hear 50-50 boos, cheers. I was like, okay. I was like, everybody that fucking hates Trivium, make some noise right now. Half the crowd booing as loud as they can. And I said, I even got you to make noise for us. And then by the end of the show, we had about 95% of the crowd into us. So we have been conditioned by that fire that I spoke of that first jiu-jitsu competition, that that kind of failing publicly, that the crusade to the UK, that kind of thing. We've survived those moments, so we're really, really good at that now. We're really I love going on festivals, playing. Like the first time we ever played Big Day Out, we were the only metal band on it. And I loved that. I love being I love having to go into it swinging, which is, I think, is very fun. I don't like to do many things like that. I don't want to do jiu-jitsu like that. I don't want to do gaming like that. But with Trivium, because of those hours put in like a friendly competition way, I like that. I like adversity when I can play music live to it to be my weapon.
So just a couple of things left before we let you go. The artwork on the record, and like we've spoken previously about the concept of Trivium artwork. Like it really started to kind of tie together with Shogun, really came into its own within Waves. How did you come up with the concept for What the Dead Men Say, and how would you describe the packaging and vibe outside of the music for the record?
Just like you said, like it's around that time that we really started nailing Trivium visuals. Like our videos were cool, but we never really nailed the videos till in Waves. We never really nailed the live performance, the documentary till in Waves, or the artwork started coming together. Shogun and Waves, we truly nailed it. We've always felt that visuals are as important as music, and my biggest influence for music videos has always been Rammstein. I've always felt Rammstein has had the best music videos of any band on the planet, and I've always loved the way they present their videos. They make them like mini worlds. My biggest inspiration for making auditory art has always been visual art. I've always loved visual art, whether photography, film, video games, books, museums, whatever it may be. I've always loved to be able to see these things because I can't make visual art. I think a lot of bands would benefit from having an art director, and we just happen to luck out that my wife is our art director, and she's been essentially doing that and helping lend opinions and advice. I remember even since the Crusade, she would kind of help us out a little bit here and there, but started coming more into the fold after In Waves. In Waves is where my best friend John Paul Douglas, who's a visual artist. He did all the videos and the photos and the artwork for the record, and I was very inspired by his art, and he got me into film guys like David Lynch and Lars von Trier and Nicholas Winding Refn, and I started wanting to approach what we do with Trivium and finding our own worlds. It's that rebellion sense that we used to do, that I did musically to us. I said, all right, Ascendancy did really well. Let's make the opposite with the Crusade. It's still doing the rebelling things, but against the right things. So we said on In Waves, what's the opposite of a live DVD? a live DVD with no crowd. So we made the Chapman Live thing. We made a live DVD with no crowd in it. We said, what's the opposite of a no band documentary? Let's have a documentary with no color. We weren't the first people to do any of these, like, specific these ideas, but we felt like there wasn't really anyone else doing that. So with Ashley being our art director and really, you know, in charge of the helm, she is all about, if you can't, because I feel like there are times where even myself, all of us in the world, or other bands even, they have this idea of the vision. They may not be the qualified person to pull it off, but they try it anyway, and it kind of falls a little bit short. So her attitude's always, if there's someone that's a master of something, have that person do it. So we weren't sure if she was going to do the cover or not. We weren't sure who was going to do the cover. When we did our band photos, she found this incredible local artist named Mike Dunn who did our photos. He'd never done like a metal band's photos. And she saw this little flower at the bottom of one of my photos. She said, Mike, can you test that? I have an idea for a cover. And she kind of gave some ideas. And he did like 1,000 test shots and ended up just a cover coming out of there. So it's really finding experts of the scene. Mike Dunn being our photographer and our cover art guy. Ryan Macfall, this incredible British videographer who I've always been a fan of, who later when I found out he was at our show at Download 2005, that made it even make more sense. I always want to work with people that want to work with us. Not necessarily, they don't have to be fans necessarily. If they are, that's cool, but I want them to want to know where we come from, get it. Same with Josh Wilbur, he knows where we come from, he knows what we're meant to be. So it's getting the experts that can do it. Michael Ulrich doing our artwork, and Ryan Macfall doing the videos, and just getting the people that we're fans of their art and having them incorporated with us versus us trying to do something like them. We actually get the people that are best at it to do it with us.
And just finally then, I guess, is there anything that you've got coming up that you want to tell everyone about?
Everything we have cooking right now are all top secret, even for then. But expect to, you know, I've been making the joke, you can't escape me and you can't escape Trivium. Just expect more of that theme to be in everything, which is very cool. It's a cool time for us that you know, I remember coming up and saying how it was difficult not having press and not having other bands into us during those weird Rocky years. What we found now is in the world of video games and video game streaming, all these game developers are huge Trivium fans. The people at Overwatch, my favorite video game of all time, they're all Trivium fans, and the lead character designers are Trivium fan. And people at different video games want to approach us, or people at orgs of, you know, team orgs that I'm fans of, like FaZe Clan, Temper. He's one of the owners of FaZe Clan. He grew up listening to Trivium. He sang some guest vocals on our last record. So it's finding these interesting crossovers. Or, you know, my favorite streamer, one of my favorite streamers in the world, Shroud, his favorite band's Trivium. And I was able to write his theme song that riffs of that became What the Dead Men Say. So it's just all of these random, non-planned out things that have been organically happening. And I think that's the best. This system of controlled chaos, I guess, is what Trivium is putting all the prep work and all the mechanical practicing into what we do, into allowing improvisation to happen. Because improvisation technically is something that shouldn't be something that's liked by a person who has planned out as regimented as I am. But I put all the planning in, so when that happens, that can become, we could trap that lightning in a bottle.
Mate, thanks so much for your time today, and thanks so much for doing that song with Bleed From Within. Like, that band are so good, and they're so underappreciated. It was, how did that come about, just before we say goodbye?
I mean, I've always been a fan of theirs, and I found out they liked our band too. I had no idea that they were into our band. They came out to a show in Luxembourg. We got to hang out with the guys and finally meet them, and I was like, hey, I love your band. And then Laz from While She Sleeps had to step out. So, you know, then we had 1/5 of Bleed From Within with 1/5 of While She Sleeps. So us being big fans of the British scene, like, I've always felt like we're an adopted British band. I don't know if British bands feel that. I don't know if it's okay for me to say that, but I think that's kind of right. It's like a lot of these dudes, I remember, like Austin and Griffin from Shapes and As Lions, they said some of their first shows ever were Trivium shows, and that's crazy to me. So it's amazing when I found out the Bleed From Within guys dug Trivium, and I hit them up. I don't remember who was first. I think I might have said something cheeky like, hey, if you guys ever need a guest, do something. I love your band. And then they hit me up and said, lo and behold, we would love you to do a little bit of singing. Or, sorry, a little bit of solos on here. I wanted to do singing too, but there wasn't space. Maybe next record.
Next record.
Yeah, next record.
Matt, we'll see you when you're on the road, mate. Take care.
Thank you so much. Congratulations on the show, man. Congrats.
Thanks so much, man. Cheers.
All right,
see you in a bit.
Care.
Thanks to Matt from Trivium. You can catch him on Twitch, Instagram and Twitter at Matthew K. Heafy. And of course, if you haven't checked out the album, What the Dead Men Say, out now on Roadrunner Records, I have to say with complete sincerity, I've liked this band since Ascendancy. I consider Shogun a classic. I consider Ascendancy a classic. I think The Sin and the Sentence and In Waves are elite tier metal records. And even considering how strong their back catalogue is, fight me in the comments section if you must. I believe What the Dead Men Say is the best thing that Trivium have ever recorded, and I cannot wait for them to finally take it out on the road. So, up next on Mosh Talks, we're going to be joined by Spencer Charnas of Ice Nine Kills. If you haven't checked out their latest album, it's called The Silver Scream, and on the album, each song is assigned to a particular horror movie. So there is a song that is all the way themed about Friday the 13th. And there is one about Jaws that has this incredible dun-dun-dun style breakdown. It is a lot of fun. They were due to hit arenas for the first time with Five Finger Death Punch and Papa Roach and I Prevail. Unfortunately, that tour has been put back to September. It's going to roll all the way through across the United States of America until November. But there is a silver lining to this Silver Scream. So Spencer has been working on some exciting stuff. And here he is to tell you all about it. Spencer Charnas from Ice Nine Kills here on Mosh Talks with me, Beez. It is a pleasure to welcome Spencer Charnas from Ice Nine Kills to the first ever episode of Mosh Talks. Spencer, lockdown has been a bit of a bummer for most of us, but you made it a hell of a lot brighter with your version of Fountains of Wayne, Stacey's mum, in the style of Jason's mum, to go alongside the whole horror theme of the Silver Scream so far. When did that come about, and how did that idea come together? Because I have to say, you look so stoked when you were recording it. It's unreal.
Well, thank you for saying that. It was a lot of fun. To be honest, about, I want to say a month ago, the idea just came to me. I was had been listening to Fountains of Wayne because I'm a fan of that band, and I've listened to them for years. Not just that song, but like songs like Sink to the Bottom. Just, they've always written great pop songs. And it came to my mind, wow, I can't believe no one's ever thought to do a Friday the 13th theme with that song, because it would work perfectly as far as the relation to a mother character. And I thought about that, and then I realized, oh my God, Mother's Day is next month. This would be a perfect time to record that cover, and it kind of just went from there. I wrote the lyrics to it, I think, within a day or so, and I went over to my bandmate's house, Joe's house, and we recorded it and then sent the other parts back to the other members, and it worked out fantastic. And I was glad that we could also include a little nod to Norman Bates and Psycho at the end of it.
I mean, that speaks volumes about where you've been on this whole album campaign. In fact, it's killed me that I haven't had the chance to talk to you about it since literally the day the album came out. We did that interview in the Black Craft store. Something that has really jumped out about the last year and a half, or certainly since that day, is as someone that about 10 years ago bought an Ice Nine Kills shirt with a zombie Will Ferrell on it. Like so long ago that even before the memes had kind of taken Anchorman for their own. What stands out is that this has been by far and away the most successful campaign to date. And I wondered if that was because it was the most natural extension of yourself. Like, everything about the Silver Scream campaign has just roared fun and authenticity. It feels like a real extension of yourself, this record and this campaign.
I agree. I think that great art, comes from a place that's real and not manufactured. You know, this stuff has been in my DNA since I was a little kid. I've always just been gravitating towards the horror genre, and I've always loved metal, and I've always loved punk, and I've always loved pop. So this was like an amalgamation of all those influences into one melting pot. And I think you hit the nail on the head in the sense that it screams fun, because that's how we made it. It was just a really fun, interesting, rewarding process. It was just less stressful than any album I think I've ever been involved with, because I knew the material so well, and I think the only really somewhat stressful part was living up to the movies, because these are classics that, I hold very near and dear to my twisted heart, so I just wanted to do them justice. But I think that really speaks volumes about the success of the album, and you're absolutely right. It rings true to everything I love, and I think you can really see that in everything from the music to the videos to the merchandise. This was just a really great, fun process.
One of the other things that really stands out is that you have a background in Broadway, and like a sort of theatre, I should say. And that shows through in your songwriting on this record. I was particularly this morning, I was listening to the director's cut version and Your Number's Up, and the beginning of it, literally, it feels like something out of a stage show. Is that theatricality and that sort of Danny Elfman style vibe to you as a songwriter? It feels like this is a peanut butter and jelly situation of things coming together.
Absolutely, and thank you for saying that. I've always admired musicals, especially Les Miserables, Fan of the Opera, even stuff like Grease, and it's weird. It's like, when I sit down, I don't set out to say I want to make this like a Broadway show. It just seems like the perfect fit for telling these kind of stories, and I'm so glad that people appreciate that and enjoy it. And it's also very rewarding, because I think that maybe a lot of people who wouldn't listen to musical kind of sounding material are getting to hear that stuff, and whether they're going out and then going to listen and see a performance of Les Miserables, I don't know. I haven't heard too much about that, but if I can sway people at all or influence them to check out musical theater and sort of broaden their horizons for what music can be, I've done my job. The videos and the way the music videos all play into one another and kind of all lead to that big reveal on the It song. That must have been a blast to put together conceptually. How did that come together? Because it's one thing having these cool videos and these cool homages to those movies, but it's another thing to insert Ice Nine Kills and to insert yourself into a running narrative. How did that concept come together? That came to me very early on in the making of the album. I thought, how cool would it be to be able to interconnect our videos? And we actually did something similar on the last album, Every Trick in the Book, where it was an interlock story with recurring themes and some recurring characters, and sort of a book being passed around through generations. And I thought, let's take it a step further and let's put the band into the story, and let's put it in sort of a meta reality. And I've always been a fan of films like, as you mentioned, Scream, and I thought that would be just a really interesting take and a lot of fun. And as much as I love horror, I love comedy as well, and I also wanted that side to show through in the film. And then I took it to our very talented director friend Daniel Horhan, and we put the story together.
Mate, you mentioned the comedy side of things. You and Brandon from Atreyu's April Fool's Day got me hook, line and sinker, because you were posting that you were going to release like an EP of songs based on Adam Sandler movies. I wanted that so badly. It just felt like something that would even work.
I think it actually could. Brandon and I have a very similar senses of humor, sort of that deadpan comedy delivery, and we had a lot of fun with that particular joke. We met. I've always been a big fan of Atreyu, so to meet him when we toured with them about, I want to say, a year and a half ago, we definitely bonded pretty quickly over our love of Adam Sandler, and we thought it'd be a funny joke. And I actually had already had a shirt made up that we were going to sell at some point with Ice Nine Kills that said Happy Killmore. So I thought, this is perfect.
Like Sandler's rage fits, the alright style of things would work so well as a mosh call as well.
I think so. When he's beating that clown at the putting range with the golf club, be perfect.
You're gonna die, clown.
Exactly.
It's interesting to see. Going back to horror, something that's really interesting to see is since the release of The Silent Scream, it feels like horror has gone in a slightly different direction. While your record pays homage to the classics, there's been a real uprising in psychological horror when you look at Midsummer and Hereditary and even stuff like Mandy, I guess to a certain extent Get Out. Do you think that the changing face of horror will have any impact on Ice Nine Kills moving forward?
I think perhaps, but I tend to, whenever we're looking for films for inspiration, to go a little bit backward, more towards retro stuff. But hey, what's coming out right now could affect us in 10 years, who knows? But I think it's great to see the genre continuing to move forward and try new things, and it's always cool to see things come in cycles. Right now, as you said, that psychological sort of Get Out, Jordan Peele kind of film seems to be really hot right now, and who knows? Maybe the next wave will be slashers again. So it's always interesting to admire what's going on with the genre, and so great to see so many studios like Blumhouse sort of carrying the torch and pushing it forward.
Do you think that it helped, with you doing this album campaign? It's only just come to mind with you saying it now. With Halloween getting rebooted and with that film being so sick. Like, I have to say, that one where it follows Michael with the one shot where he's going through the house, like, no spoilers, but, like, I'll leave it at that, was so sick. Do you think things like that and the rise of Blumhouse has helped Ice Nine on the Silver Scream album campaign?
I think so. I think horror has always, even when it's not super in the mainstream, there's been waves of it with the 80s slasher boom that really took the world by storm with those films coming out like almost every weekend after Halloween and Friday the 13th and Black Christmas. There was that whole wave, and then sort of died out, and then again came back up with the release of Scream, which kind of reinvented the genre and changed everything and made horror hot again. So I think that it's always been there under the surface, kind of waiting to bubble up again. And I think that the timing of the album happened to coincide very well with another resurgence in mainstream horror. And I'd be lying if I said when back in the summer of I want to say 2017 when I started to write the album, it was definitely back in the back of my mind. Wow. Hopefully this album comes out just as the new Halloween is coming out, because there was, already that was a very open topic that was going to be filmed, and it worked out perfectly. And with it as well, I think it was a combination of right time, right place.
Like, with you putting together I should ask, did you like Halloween? Did you like the Halloween reboot movie? I think Danny McBride is so talented. I loved Eastbound and Down, but I've really loved Vice Principals and The Righteous Gemstones and him being involved in it. Did you like the last Halloween reboot?
I really did, and it's funny because I'm also a big Danny McBride fan, and when I would watch Eastbound and Down years ago, way before there were even talks of this Halloween reboot, and way before, obviously, Danny McBride was involved, there were certain little Easter eggs throughout that franchise of Eastbound and Down, the series rather, that led me to believe this guy, he's a slasher fan because he referenced Michael Myers in one episode, he referenced Ghostface from Scream, and I thought, he's got to be a slasher fan. So to see, when I heard that he was involved, it was surprising, but at the same time, it's like, it's not that surprising when you go back and look at those little Easter eggs he put through that series. But yeah, I really did enjoy that film. I thought it was a really cool take. It was an interesting idea, I thought, to get rid of the idea that Laurie is Michael's brother. Lori is Michael's sister, because over the years, and I somewhat agree with this opinion and stance that the more you learn about Michael as far as, oh, that's his sister, and he's trying to stop the bloodline, and that was alluded to in Halloween 6, Curse of Michael Myers. The more you learn about that, a little bit, the less scary it makes him, because it's a guy with a motive. So the idea, and I think part of the reason the first one was so scary is like you don't know what made him good. That's who I'm going to kill. So I think it was a nice return to form in that sense, and I thought there were some great sequences, and I really did enjoy it.
Yeah, I thought that they didn't scrimp on the gore as well. Like, it was really cool. And while you're doing this album cycle, have you got the bug in any way to kind of create your own script, or kind of create your own kind of Ice Nine Kills icon, like a Leatherface or a Jason Voorhees, something like that? When you look to the future, is that something that you could see emerging?
Absolutely. I think that this band and what we've been doing would be a really cool launching pad for something like that. So that's definitely in my mind for the future. How
far are we into bringing the future together? Because you've been touring this record a while now, so presumably ideas are starting to flow.
Absolutely, and I always try to look at the positive of any situation, and one of the positives I could find in this whole pandemic and being forced to be home is that I've definitely started to write a lot more, and we're definitely a lot further along in the process of formulating ideas than we would have been had we been on the road. Obviously, that tour would have been incredible, but I'm confident the tour will happen at some point, and I think we've put the writing in place of that right now, and sort of ahead of the game in that respect.
Yeah, it felt like Arenas was going to be such a good time as well, with that theatricality of what you can bring to something like that space. I mean, fingers crossed that does go ahead. It's really cool to hear that you've started writing and started everything coming together. Like, that's awesome.
I'm having a lot of fun with that.
Oh yeah, so right, how deep are you?
I've got ideas for I want to say 7 or 8 songs already. I don't want to say exactly what they're about, but very excited about what's being talked about and what's being created, and just the idea of trying to always one up ourselves and keep it exciting, and take into account what everyone loves about Ink, and trying to do something different at the same time while still maintaining what we love and what people love about the band, because I think we're lucky in the sense that what we love about the band it seems to be what our fans love about the band.
And so, just to close up, with this being a lockdown situation and with us all kind of being cooped up at the moment, I just wondered if there's a horror movie you've seen in the last 6 months or so that you could recommend to people during this quarantine situation.
I think one of the best horror thriller films I've seen in the last few years is The Invisible Man. I was blown away by that film, and I was bummed that I didn't get to see it in the theater because obviously the whole quarantine and pandemic ruined theatrical releases, but it was such a suspenseful film. I found myself on the edge of my seat, and I thought it was such a clever, interesting retelling of the old myth with a whole new spin on it, where it seemed completely fresh, but also paid homage to what was so special about the original, and the themes of the original still hold and ring as powerful as ever in this new adaptation. So I highly recommend that film. I was blown away.
I like the fact that they managed social commentary without it feeling too on the nose. It just nailed the right tone. I was really impressed, and you got to be stoked that looks like it's going to lead to more Universal Monsters movies.
That's what I hear. I'm very excited about that, and I also, I'm a kind of guy that loves smart marketing. I get a kick out of that kind of clever marketing. And what The Invisible Man did, I was lucky enough to get some promotional material sent to me from the film. And what The Invisible Man and Blumhouse and Universal did is that they sold an action figure for The Invisible Man, but there's nothing in the package. It's just the package, and it's The Invisible Man. So that's pretty genius.
That is awesome. Spencer, we'll come back once you're further along, or once the arena tour is on the road and whatnot. It'd be brilliant to have you back again. And I have real t-shirt envy at the shirt that you are currently rocking.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, it's a good one.
Awesome. Spencer, thanks for your time, man. I'll see you next time.
Take care. Thanks a lot, man.
Spencer Charnas there from Ice 9 Kills. Don't forget that you can catch Ink on the road. They are going out with Five Finger Death Punch, Papa Roach and I Prevail. That tour is going across the United States of America from September all the way through to November. Their album, The Silver Scream, and its Director's Cut edition, they're both available on Fearless Records right now. You can check out Jason's mum on YouTube and grab some limited edition merch at nightmareontheninth.com. There's a lot going on with all things Ice 9 Kills. But now we go back to my homeland and Liverpool in the United Kingdom to catch up with Loathe. Their new album, I Let It In and It Took Everything, is one of the year's standout heavy releases. It is creative and versatile. There's nods to Deftones, but alongside that there's this real sonic assault and aggression going on. It is a really eclectic record and I love it. Also, my friends back home tell me that this band have improved massively live to the point that they are one of the must-see bands in the United Kingdom right now. But that is enough waffle from me. We're going to catch up right now with Kadeem France in England from Loathe. Yeah. Alright, I'm joined by Kadeem France from Loathe. Their new album, I Let It In and It Took Everything, is out now. Kadeem, how's lockdown been treating you, man?
Not too bad, I've spending a lot of time with family, obviously, because I'm home and stuff. And I don't know, it's kind of weird because, obviously being in a band, being on tour a lot, you're away from home. So now I'm kind of just using this time to watch all the movies I've always wanted to watch with my little sister, see my little cousins, see my auntie and stuff. It's been cool. But
what's the best film you've seen?
Ooh, best film I've seen recently. I watched Howl's Moving Castle.
Oh, the Ghibli film.
Yeah. I watched that for the first time ever because I'm a really big fan of Studio Ghibli, but I've never watched that film. But I watched that. Also watched Akira with my little sister. I showed her that for the first time ever. I'm slowly trying to get it into anime, but yeah.
Amazing. Akira always blows my mind because it's from the late 80s, but in terms of its graphic and its approach and its story, it's also relevant.
It's so mad, when you say that, to think it looks amazing now to us. Imagine what that looked to people back then. That must be mind blowing. So insane.
So, I was wondering, on a scale of 1 to 10, how scouse you were going to be, because we've never spoken before, and of course, Loathe, famously from Liverpool, and while Liverpool's got a massive musical heritage that speaks for itself, outside of the UK famous and incredible Saturday night out, the Crazy House, I don't really know what Liverpool has got in terms of the way of heavy music. Were you first playing shows in Liverpool, and what was it like kind of getting yourself together in a city that isn't synonymous with the world of heavy music, at least?
Yeah, no, there was a lot of bands there's this band called Carson City. There was this other band called, oh my god, Saving Sienna. They were from Manchester, but I kind of count a lot of Manchester bands similar to Liverpool bands because it's so close. But Fed to the Ocean. Who else? Carson City. Have you heard of Carson City?
I haven't. Do you know what? The last Liverpudlian metal band that I knew of was Number One Sun. And I'm going back to the early to mid noughties with that.
Oh yeah. I don't even get onto them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but playing shows back then, it was honestly, there was never really any heavy shows going on in Liverpool. even being in a band in Liverpool, the majority of the shows you'd play would probably be in Manchester, because that's like the closest place to like a heavy metal hub. Do you know what I mean? So like it really depends, but like that's why it's so crazy now. Coming back now that like there's so many new bands, and I feel like almost like the Liverpool scene's been rebirthed. Like there's bands like God Complex, obviously, like there's just so many bands that are coming about now, and it's like it feels like a family. Like it's never felt like that before. You know what I mean? There was never really that many gigs back in the day, like heavy gigs in Liverpool, other than like, as I said, Carson City. So to have this new like breed of metal or whatever in Liverpool, it's just like a really cool thing to be a part of. Yeah.
So great. Something that is really standing out about the new record in particular, because it was kind of there on the Cold Sun, but especially on the new record, is that it's really eclectic. Like it's really fearless in terms of where it wants to go, and I think that's a very 2020 attitude. Is that the attitude that exists within Loathe?
Absolutely, yeah. As I've said before, this album is probably the first time ever that we've like fully just went in to the studio just wanting to create what's true to us. And like obviously it's been so long since we released The Cold Sun, and like, you know, we've grown up a lot since then. We've listened to a lot more different music since then, just matured in what our tastes are and everything. And I feel like that really shows on the album. And to have like, to be able to be that true to ourselves musically, and to also have people like, to have the album have such an amazing reception that it's had, it's like so amazing for us, and it opens like so many more creative doors for us to go down, and we can just kind of like really experiment with things in a proper way. Like I feel like, I don't know, before we released the album, we had no idea how people were going to take it. Like we didn't know how open-minded our fans were, but now to have that feedback is like, it's so empowering, and like just makes us want to create more and do more outside the box things, you know?
Yeah. I know people always, quite rightly, get a bit paranoid when it comes to people saying things like maturity, because there's a connotation that it gets more boring, more grown up. Like, while there's definitely a lot more going on, I really think it's, from where I sit, it's important to point out that it's a heavier record than The Cold Sun as well, I think.
Absolutely, yeah. It's definitely heavier, like, and that's what I mean, like, a lot of this album is, like, there's so many different vibes in this album, but, like, it's honestly just the tip of the iceberg. Like, I feel like there's a lot of songs that didn't make this album that are heavy, like, so much more heavier, and then there's obviously a lot more stuff on the lighter side, and I really just can't wait to, like, show people more of what we can do.
Yeah. That's quite a refreshing viewpoint from someone who provides the harsher vocal and the harsher sound from the vocal side of Loathe.
Yeah, no, because that's what I mean. Like we honestly, all of us in the band, we listen to so many different types of music, like from like R&B to hip hop to house music to like literally anything, old school garage, grime. Like there's so many different genres that we listen to, and that's like, I don't know. I just try and appreciate all different types of music, you know. And I feel like, again, going to maturity, that's a thing that happened a lot more with me in the past like 2-3 years. So yeah.
Like as one of the other things about drawing from loads of different influence that I love about Loathe is your look and your aesthetic as a band. Like the album cover, the merch, everything about it couldn't be further away from kind of Skulls, Blood and Fire and that traditional heavy metal thing. Like, where does that come from? Where does that kind of modern aesthetic come from?
Honestly, it's like just a mixture of like we like to take a lot of stuff from like movies and like big like we're very like about our like theatrics and stuff like that. So like I think that in like an artistic way is where I don't know, I'm trying to pinpoint, like we're big on just like colors and like vibes, do you know what I mean? As opposed to like the big the album cover needs to be this photo and the guy's standing there and he's got, did you know what I mean? We're just like like for example, like the album artwork for I Let It In was kind of not last minute, but it was like we were in Japan last year. And I don't know if you ever heard of a place called Team Labs. It's like this. It's kind of like an art museum in a way, but you kind of walk through it and you experience it like firsthand. You'll like walk through a room and there'll be like lights dangling about. Like, do you know have you seen the album artwork? Obviously, like
yeah, of course,
yeah. Like we visited that place and we were just like, this literally encompasses like everything we think and feel when it comes to I Let It In, and it took everything, and it only made sense for it to happen like that. Like we don't. A big thing with us is just kind of like what you're feeling in the moment, as opposed to like standing back and over analyzing things and putting yourself in a box like, oh, we're a band that plays this type of music, so we need to look like this, we need to have artwork like this. You know what I mean? We're just a very feeling based band, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it really does, because there's a shared vibe amongst it, even when it goes into different areas. If I asked you to describe that vibe for someone that had no idea, how would you describe that vibe in terms of the look and how it relates to the music?
Otherworldly, like its own universe in itself. Like we want people, when they listen or see our music or anything, to feel like they're in the universe that we are, and it's kind of like its own little world. You know what I mean? And that's like why. I don't know, we portray ourselves the way we do, because we just want you to like feel like you're a part of it the way we are, you know?
Yeah, it does make sense. And you mentioned that you draw on movies and that kind of thing when it comes to the aesthetic as well. Are there any things that like things that stand out when you think of that?
Movies. For Eric's like a really big fan of like David Lynch and stuff like that, and like we took a lot of like Akira, of course, that is a big inspiration on me, especially in the Cold Sun and everything like that. The whole like anime world and everything, just like fantasy and being able to just like, I don't know, yeah, that just inspires us a lot. Like I'm trying to think of more. Silent Hill's a really big one as well. Like the soundtrack, Hill, like oh, have you ever seen a movie called Sinister?
Called Sinister? Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's that weird noise. The main guy in it, like the villain, looks like Mick Thompson from Slipknot. He's got the full mask and everything.
Literally. But yeah, no, that movie was like a big inspiration for us for like soundscapes and everything from day one. Like, for example, our first ever music video that we shot, when we were doing all the like the performance shots, no, not the performance shots, sorry, or the in between shots between like the performance shots and everything, like me with a mask on and stuff, we would like literally play the soundtrack to Sinister whilst we were recording that, just to get us like in the vibe. Do you know what I mean? And it's just like, that's like a big thing with us. Like, for example, like say Eric has a vibe for a song or whatever, there'll be a scene from a movie or like how it looks visually and how the soundtrack goes with it. He'll be like, I want to encompass that feeling in this song, and then we'll just work from there.
And how does that work with your lyrical narrative? Because yourself and Eric both got like I've always wondered how lyrics work as a duo, and if there is an overall arching theme, because it feels like I Let You In is much like its musical canvas, kind of unafraid to go wherever it needs to go.
Yeah, well, like with lyrics, we kind of all write lyrics. Like, for example, there's a lot of songs on I Let It In that are very sentimental to Eric lyrically, like a lot of like songs that are sentimental to Faisal and to me and to Connor. Like we like to just like all collaborate, and when we'll have like a story or a theme for what we want the album to be like, and then we'll just kind of like pull from personal experiences, and then also all the like the comic world, the fantasy world that we're into, and just kind of like blend that all into one.
I love that, man. It's fascinating to me, man. Like that you can have something that is so out there and draws from not your usual inspirations as well. Like it's killer to hear that you draw in from loads of different places. The thing is, like, so I moved out to the States in 2017. So all I've seen for the last couple of years within the communities that I follow and keeping in with what's going on back in the UK is your reputation as a live band growing. So it's got to be a killer to have a new record out. It's been out since February. You've got to be chomping at the bit to be taking these songs on the road. Yeah,
oh my God, man, you have no idea. I feel so lucky that we got to actually tour we did like a UK headliner just before this whole coronavirus thing happened, and so I just feel so lucky that we've been able to actually tour our album and stuff, and I feel so bad for the bands that have released albums this year and obviously haven't had to been able to do their proper touring cycle and everything. I really feel for them, but yeah, I really can't wait to just do more, man. I want to go Europe. I want to go to America. I just want to... And we had a lot of plans for this year, but obviously, with everything that's going on, it is what it is.
But you were going to come to the States. That was on the plans.
I don't want to say anything. It's...
All right. I won't get you in trouble, I promise. literally having to eat your clothing to stop you speaking.
But it is a strong chance. I'll just say that, a very, very strong chance. But yeah.
So just to finish up, Kadeem, I didn't know this until about 10 minutes before this interview that you were in Hollyoaks. I didn't know, right? So for everyone outside of the UK, right, and for me, because all I know about Hollyoaks is being or that riff that goes into the advert. That's all I know about it. Well, can you explain Hollyoaks to people outside of the UK?
Yeah, basically, it's just a soap, a regular show that I don't know. It's so cringy when I look back on it now, but it's just a UK soap opera that is really, really... I mean, I wouldn't say it's as popular now, but back in the day, it used to be mad popular. And I got to walk in the background a few times. I got paid to walk in the background. It was cool.
Easy money, mate. Easy money.
Have you ever heard of a show called Grange Hill?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Bro, I was on Grange Hill as well.
Get out of town!
They did I think it was a short, a new series. It was because obviously Grange Hill's a really old show, and then they brought it back.
Yeah.
And, yeah, man, I was on 2 or 3 episodes. One of them I was skateboarding in the background and stuff. Yeah, it was wild.
When they brought it back, did they keep the wow bit of music? They did.
Yeah. So good.
Did you? So, were you always you yourself personally, Kadeem? Were you always gearing up for a life in the public eye? Was that something be it performing in terms of acting, or being how it's worked out, being a musician? Was that always the plan for you to not live a kind of 2.4 life?
Yeah, absolutely. From when I was little, my granddad, he used to take me to acting class every week. I've starred in a few pantomimes and stuff. I've auditioned for adverts that could have been big and stuff like that. But at one point as well, I genuinely wanted to study to be a drama teacher. But I got into music.
Yeah, but I decided touring the world with a really fucking good band was better.
That's literally it. But yeah, no, I played Happy in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs when I was 8 years old or 7 years old. Yeah, it's always been a big theme within my family, performing arts, any type of performing arts. My auntie used to be a presenter on MTV. It's always been a thing in our family, so yeah.
That's amazing. Kadeem, I'll let you go before you have to eat that hoodie to stop telling me about you coming to the United States. The new Loathe album, I let you in and it took everything, is out now. Go and check it out. Make sure you take the time to do so. Kadeem, cheers for your time, man.
Thank you for having me, man. Yo, take care.
Loathe's new album is out now. You can follow Kadeem at Kadeem France on Instagram and at Kadeem_France on Twitter. And sticking with new bands, we are now going to go to Atlanta, Georgia. I was a big fan of Monty Connor coming into this business. If you don't know who Monty Connor is, do your homework, do better. But basically, Monty Connor was responsible for signing some of my favourite bands of all time while he was at Roadrunner Records. Typo Negative, Slipknot, Glassjaw, Fear Factory, like Trivium, you name them, right? And he continues to back amazing bands over at Nuclear Blast today. I mean, just look at their roster: Fit for an Autopsy, Paul Bearer, Chemist. There's some amazing stuff going on over at Nuclear Blast. But he spoke about a new band so passionately and with good reason that I'd like to introduce you to them. They are called Irist. Their debut album is out now. It's called Order of the Mind. It's only been out a couple of weeks. It is wicked. Some serious guttural Mastodon vibes going on. Progressive, but never cutting corners on having some real low-end crunch. It is really, really good. And here's a chat with their singer. His name's Rodrigo Carvalho, and here he is to tell you everything you need to know about Irist from Atlanta, Georgia on Nuclear Blast Records. I'm joined by Rodrigo Carvalho from Irist. The new album, Order of the Mind, is out now. Rodrigo, this lockdown is a pain in the arse for most of us, right? Yep. But having just released a debut record, really critically acclaimed and all the rest of it, like, this must be an absolute killer from where you're sat at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, we weren't expecting it. I remember the beginning of the reports on the virus. They didn't seem as alarming as it turned out to be. So we had some hope to go on tour. A little after, maybe a few months after, and it all stopped, as we all know. We're trying to look at the positives. We're trying to, create content like most bands are, trying to do, live streams, doing live sessions. We're working on it, but yeah, it's a little bit of a letdown. I mean, there's no other way around it. Still, though, we talked to our managers, and then, some of them said, there's a silver lining in it, and one of them is we're just starting now. So because we're starting now, perhaps that allows time for people to come in contact with content online, since most people are staying at home.
Yeah.
So we hope that that's the case, but. For a band like us that spent the whole of 2018 in studio, demoing a lot, and then going to the studio, recording it. So we've been sitting on the songs for 3 years almost. Man, we want to play this live so badly.
That's the thing. Like, the thing that really stands out about the record that stayed with me when I heard it was. Oh God, these songs are going to rip live, so I can't wait to see you on the road myself. In fact, one of the other things that I think when I hear the album is, while there is an overall vibe to Irist, like it's a really guttural, heavy feel throughout it, and there's a general vibe and feel, it kind of goes wherever it wants to as an album. It suggests that there's some pretty eclectic tastes within your band. Is that the case?
Yes, that's exactly the case. We feel like we don't want to be, held to any kind of like guidelines or sameness or anything when we write. We will always like to take risks and go whatever direction we feel like going. So yeah, that's totally the case. And also, everybody in the band has fairly different backgrounds in music. Our drummer likes a lot of like math rock, super technical stuff. Jason, our bassist Bruno, likes more folk music, traditional Latin American music. Pablo and I have more or less similar tastes. We also grew up with the 90s, Roadrunner stuff like Sepultura, Fear Factory, all that stuff, but also some punk, hard rock and hardcore in my case, in Pablo's case, more 80s music. And Adam likes a lot of stuff, a lot of indie stuff, alternative, alt rock, and some, metal too. But yeah, it goes all over the place. So I guess you can feel a little bit of everything there in the album.
I mean, when you mention 90s Roadrunner, I mean, I have to say, I was always going to pay special attention to your band because Monty Connor is a friend. And of course, he runs Nuclear Blast, and he signed pretty much everything cool that happened in the world of metal over the course of the last fucking 20, 30 years. And he was positively glowing about your band once he'd signed you and the record was coming. Like, how did that relationship come to be? And that must be a trip.
You said everything. It is a trip, especially, like I said, for us that grew up with the 90s Roadrunner. It's almost like it came full circle. We were like influenced by the bands he signed, and we came to be signed by him. So it's surreal. Like, that's the word right now in my head. It's like super surreal. Yeah, I even lost just on that Bible. I even lost what was the other question you had?
I mean, how did the relationship start? How did that begin?
Yeah, so basically, before even the band had this name, we started as a different project, and when the band, before I joined the band in the early stages, they recorded an EP, and they sent to Matt Bailey's, who's done some work with Mastodon and whatnot, a bunch of other bands that we like. We like his sound a lot, and we had to mix it, and he really liked it, and he sent it to Monty Connor, and Monty Connor liked it, kept us in the radar, but it's still very early. And after that, the previous vocalist left, I joined, and when I joined the band, it was under a lot of stress because we had to write music and send it to Monty to hopefully impress him and hopefully be signed, because that relationship had already started but hadn't gone anywhere yet. So I joined in under a lot of pressure. Thank God, after we recorded 3 demos, sent it to him, and he absolutely loved it and signed us by then. So it was a huge relief off my back. No
pressure. Like if it had gone once you joined.
That was stressful times, but thank God it worked really well. I think we kept sending him the demos as we had been writing. The whole 2018 was like that. It was every day and weekends included in the studio, writing every song that you hear on Order of the Mind and a few other ones that we still don't know what to do with them. But so we kept sending him, and he was getting more and more excited. So that's kind of like how it happened.
How big a role does Atlanta play in things? Because you are from various different parts yourself. You're from Brazil. You mentioned earlier yourself that you guys are kind of from all over, but it's clear that there's a kind of sound that's from Georgia. Like you mentioned Mastodon as well. How big a role does that play? And how did you all come to be in this kind of one big melting pot of Atlanta, Georgia?
I think the impact that Atlanta had was because we liked the bands from here a lot, and we are inevitably influenced by them. In my case, I was less so than the rest of the band, but I think the rest of the band heard a lot of, Carlisa, Baroness. Mastodon at this point is kind of impossible not to have heard of them. And Cinemechanica, Horse, all these bands that are around here. There's a good quality coming out of here. There's a lot of good quality bands, and I think everybody just happened. And that might be one thing, the way I become that everybody tends to really like Georgia bands. Baroness, Savannah, Carlisa, Savannah. Cinemechanica is Athens. Even as if you go back to REM, we still love them. So
I fucking love REM, man.
There you go.
like I wanted to ask as well, because with you being Brazilian and with Brazil having its own heavy metal heritage, be that Sepultura or Angra or whatever way you want to go with it, do you feel like that is a certain flavour that you bring that is in any way influenced by where you come from in the first place?
That's a great question. It's always difficult because I think when that happens, it happens in a somewhat subconscious level. But it's funny, like, Sepultura is from Belo Horizonte, which is not too far from where I come from, actually, maybe 4 hours driving, which in Brazil is like nothing. Angra, on the other hand, is from further out from São Paulo, so they're a little more distant. In my state, specifically, it's kind of known for, punk and hardcore. There's a huge scene of bands that are, like, nationally very, very big that come from my state. And that's a lot of what I grew up listening to too. So I think I bring some of that in when I write, but then again, it's kind of hard to tell because I also grew up listening to not only punk and hardcore from Brazil, but also from the UK, especially. There's Discharge and GBH and all that stuff. So it's hard to tell like where my Brazilian influence starts and where it ends.
So you mentioned the UK, and you went to the UK to record this record. Going from Atlanta to Southampton is quite a swing. Like, what was the experience like of recording this record? Did you turn up with the songs written, or was there any kind of more work done in the studio? What was the experience like of recording a debut record, especially with, those guys having hammered it out for years, yourself having joined in recent times? Like, what was the experience like of actually making a record together?
So, for many of us, this was, under a record label, this was the first time a lot of us were doing, but we thankfully had demoed the songs out, huge deal. We spent, like I said, the whole 2018 in the studio, and by the time we decided on a producer, and we sent all the demos, in this case was Louis Johns from the Range Production House in Southampton. He said, Matt, there's not a whole lot to do here as far as like, song structure and whatnot, but we had fun, that was actually a good thing because we started having fun with like tones, finding, bells and whistles here and there to add to the songs. So it was incredible. We came across Louis Johns because Adam, our guitarist, he came across Conjure.
Brilliant band, yes.
So the album, the drum sound on the album was pretty impressive to us. So we were like, maybe we should also venture in a cultural experience, stay a month in the UK, get some live experience on the top of recording, with this guy who apparently, kills at the drum sound. So we went there, and it was amazing. We had the greatest time. Like, I think we'll never forget that time. Like, Louis is just incredibly professional, super nice person. And we came back, like, he's our friend now. Like, we exchange messages every now and then. Like, a lot of the similar tastes, similar backgrounds. We end up, like, I have Marmite at home now. Like,
that's the effect it's had.
That was the effect. But yeah, I was super happy with the album. It was just great. Like, there's nothing that I would have done differently, as far as that's concerned.
Your personal journey is quite fascinating, Rodrigo, because you had given up music entirely for a decade prior to Irist, after being in bands for years. What was it that brought you back to the fore? Was it specifically you felt you and the guys that had formed the nucleus of Irist had something and could vibe something together? Was it specifically this project that brought you back, as opposed to just getting the itch to want to be in a band?
No, actually, it was a little before that. I was just incredibly, lonely and bored, and it turned out after some reflection that I was like, man, I'm just not doing music. That's why I feel like shit all the time, So I have to find a way to, get to know people here and do music. Like I said, I had completely abandoned it. I thought I'd just never find the right people. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna, go to school, finish school. So after I did that, I still wasn't very satisfied. I was like, maybe I should just die trying, And that's what I did. I just went online, and I came across a riff that Bruno and Pablo and Adam had put out, and I absolutely loved it. I was like, man, I have to do music with these guys. I don't care what it takes. And I was like incredibly rusty. Like I was like somebody who hadn't done music in 10 years. and I bought a cheap audio interface, a cheap microphone, and I knew absolutely nothing about tracking anything. I mean, back in my day when you did music, you just, practice in the simplest possible ways. I mean, in South America, you don't have a lot of resources anyway to buy fancy equipment. But yeah, so I just did learn quickly how to record stuff, send it to them, and they really liked it. And but I just could feel that wasn't the right time because it was so out of shape. And they moved on. I was still friends with them. Kept contact with them. They moved on, got the previous vocalist. And I just started playing around, started another project with an old friend of mine who I had been doing music before, like an industrial, nasty, heavy project. Guys in the Netherlands who might go back to do a few things on the side now. But so I kept in contact, and eventually, after playing a bunch of small little bands here and there, like with garage, just like cover bands and stuff. I just needed to get, in shape and hopefully find the right people, but never did. Eventually, we kind of gelled in with the guys. I was, on the merch table the first time they played. I was just around all the time and getting better and better and better. And then when I felt like I was ready, I was just doing music full time with my friend. Eventually, the other vocalist stepped down, and I joined in. But yeah, it was kind of like both in a way then, because I would only do music if it was with them. Like if it wasn't, I wouldn't have invested as much time and effort if it wasn't with something that I felt was really good, That was I quit 10 years ago because I wasn't happy. So if I had to go back, I had to go back for something good.
Yeah. And now that the album's finished and we're here, it's released, it's out there, and being a new band and having a captive audience like this, what do you want people to know about the record? Here's the platform. What would you say about it to people that haven't heard it?
For people who haven't heard it, I think that there's a level of intensity in this album, and that I haven't heard, and I can say that from from being on the other side. When I wasn't in the band, watch the band play live. I see it wasn't the same songs or anything like that. Now it's maybe even more, even heavier. But yeah, it's so intense. There's the energy that comes out when you see the band live, and even when you listen to the album, you get pretty exhausted sometimes of so much tension and so much. It's like an emotional roller coaster. Sometimes you feel at ease, sometimes you feel triumphant, and sometimes you come down from it. It's truly an aesthetic experience, I think. So I think that's what I think people should be excited about it. It's a roller coaster in a way.
And I've got to say, I think Harvester is one of the best songs I've heard all year. If you haven't heard the record yet, check it out. It's by Irist. It's called Order of the Mind. Rodrigo, thanks for your time today. And I like to think that you've come dressed exactly like me on purpose.
Actually, I gotta say, I had my beard like normally is. Normally I have a beard, but I had like an accident. I was grilling outside, and like I didn't notice how the gauge was, and it was like gas coming out, and it exploded. It kind of burned my beard. It looked like claws. It was all weird, so I had to shave. So that's why I look a lot like he was.
Sounds like something out of a Bruce Willis movie, mate.
When we do this, I'll look like Charles Darwin.
Rodrigo, thanks for your time today, man. Really appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Cheers.
Honestly, I cannot wait to hear those songs live, man. Irist's new album, Order of the Mind, is out now, and you simply must hear it. Okay, I've got to bring reality into focus for a couple of seconds here, because I don't exactly feel like Winston Churchill delivering a brilliant speech when I say this shit sucks. The COVID-19 global pandemic that has kind of brought the world to a standstill. My mates have been affected, your mates have been affected, you have been affected, all of us have been affected in some way, shape or form by this global pandemic, and we wanted to take a couple of seconds here at Mosh Talks to give a quick shout out to some of the people who've been doing great things to raise money for charity. Devin Townsend has been doing live gigs and been donating all of the money from those shows. You have to buy a ticket for the shows. The shows are unreal. Brilliant set lists, the kind of brilliance you'd expect from Devin Townsend, but all of the money have been going to different charities, so nice one for that on Devin. I think he's writing at the moment, but keep an eye on Devin's social media because there might be more of those gigs in the future. Linkin Park sold face masks. I think they're sold out, but go and check out Linkin Park socials to see if they are selling any more face masks, and all of the money went to COVID-19 relief funds for Music Cares and Direct Relief, and our very own Corey Taylor has auctioned off 13 guitars from his own personal collection to raise $150,000 for Direct Relief. That is a massive effort from all of those guys, so round of applause for them all. And every band that's out there trying to help out, and that includes our next guests on the show. Halestorm are here, and they are going to be talking about a new initiative that is called Roadie Strong. Now, road crews have been hit real bad by this pandemic. While bands have been able to get creative and provide content for you for payment to kind of try and help, or do merch drops or anything like that to help with this, the road crew don't have that opportunity. My wife's cousin is a drum tech, and we saw him a couple of summers ago when a tour was cancelled for 2 months, and I remember feeling so sorry for the predicament that it put him in. So every roadie that you know is in that circumstance and has been there for the last couple of months. Halestorm and some other reputable bands have kind of teamed with Live Nation for #Roadie Strong. Head to livenationentertainment.com/Crew Nation, and you can donate or pick up some merch there, and all of the money will go towards helping road crew members around the world. Halestorm going to tell you all about Roadie Strong, and they are the first band that we are ever going to have on Mosh Talks when it comes to Behind the Song. This is a segment that's going to go out at the end of Mosh Talks every week, where a band talk us through one of the landmark songs in their back catalogue. And in the case of Halestorm, we have picked their first ever single, I Get Off. So that is enough from me. Thank you if you have supported any of those calls, if you have bought merch, anything that you are doing to help this culture and help people in need at this point in time is awesome. Here is Joe and Lizzie from Halestorm to tell you all about #Roadie Strong and talk I Get Off. So, by the grace of God, I should be joined by Lizzie and Joe from Halestorm. How has this lockdown been treating you?
It's crazy, man.
So far, so good.
Yeah, we were one of the lucky ones. We actually slated this time before the pandemic to write a record. So it's funny, since the pandemic happened, we've actually been busier than like doing like PR and doing all of these things, than we would have been if it had just stayed normal. So yeah, we're writing and doing our thing. We had a couple dates that were pushed, but other than that.
How far into writing the record are you then? Because this is very exciting developments.
Well, it depends on how you look at it, because we were technically supposed to be in pre-pro right now, but we can't do that. So it's we're just writing our asses off.
Just writing, trying to write, doing the best we can.
Does this affect? Sorry, Joe. Does this affect how the material is coming out? The sort of thing that you're writing. Does this current situation affect it? Have you felt anything in the writing process so far?
What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. Everything kind of means something different now, and all of the songs that were coming from me before the pandemic have kind of like been kind of pushed aside, and I have this whole new racket going on. I literally went back to the technique, or whatever, the way that I was writing when I was like 16 in my parents' garage, with a 4-track Tascam recorder. Although I use Logic now, but I'm like limiting myself. So it's like a relay thing. Now, like I write the song and it's just like a riff and my voice and a click, and then I pass the baton to Joe, and then he makes it cooler, and then but yeah, but like everything is different now. Like lyrics mean something different. It's all very like we're looking inward, but we're also like embracing the bigger picture. So it's it's definitely different. But I think it's cool. And if I can say it in a positive way, I think that we're writing better songs right now than maybe we would have been if everything had stayed normal. So yeah.
Well, I guess so. We're going to talk to you about I Get Off very shortly, but first and foremost, I have to talk to you about the #Roadie Strong campaign that you've been part of. It's part of Live Nation's Crew Nation thing. Something that always hits home when we talk about shows is I don't feel like it, or I do feel like it's easy to overlook just how much work goes into a show. Like when we turn up to watch the bands, those backdrops being up, everything that has gone in to an entire day when it comes to putting on a Halestorm show or an any band show. Can you tell us a bit about your particular road crew and just how big a role they play in everything?
It's cool, man. It's crazy. I don't know how they do it. I don't think I'd be cut up for that. When I wake up at 1 in the afternoon, everything's
crack of one.
They've already been working for like 6 or 7 hours. Like literally, half our team gets up at like 6, 7 a.m. to go in there, and we got to make sure the stage is safe, and then they chalk it and measure everything for the lighting, and I mean, there's so much, and that's like, well, the sound equipment's being loaded in. It's crazy how much. It's all detailed, and every single day, depending on the tour, and some bands carry their own PA. We've never carried. I don't think we've carried our PA yet. But so every day, it's a new sound company with a new PA, and it's just like a totally different logistical challenge every day. And then we finish a show and party, and they load out.
Yeah, so like they're literally like the first ones there, the last to leave, and still manage to like drink us under the table. I don't understand.
It's in their DNA when it comes to the road crew. Presumably the Halestorm road crew are also like a wider part of your family as well.
Oh yeah,
they are our family. They're our road family.
Yeah,
they're our best friends, and we've made a lot of mistakes together. And that's when you have good friends, when you can really fuck up, and like, I'm sorry guys.
But
it's all right.
In a lot of ways, and we've talked about this like forever, and we have this like insane group text chat with all of our crew and the whole band and everything that's during this whole time, so we can like still like kind of sort of party together. We should have like a Zoom thing with
we haven't done that yet.
We haven't done that yet with them. I don't know if some of them would know how to but most of them, I think, they know us better than most of our families do. They spend 90% of their time with us, and so part of this Roadie Strong thing that we've launched is that just it's about the bigger picture. It's not just specifically about our crew, but it's all of the crews, and all of our peers, and we know like most of the roadies for some of our favorite bands just from touring, and
like a lot of guys have worked with a bunch of bands, so especially like going to festivals is like a family reunion, like the most messed up family reunion ever, and it's awesome. You get up on stage, there's like 10 bands worth of gear and like 30 dudes that you've seen all over the world, and like, oh, what's up, man? And I love these dudes, and it's a bummer. A lot of them, their whole year has been just ended, and who knows for how long, really. Nobody knows what's going on, and it's a bummer. So anything we can do to try to help our buddies.
So bizarrely, my wife's cousin is the roadie for Brad Wilk from Rage Against the Machine.
Oh, nice.
So when Prophets of Rage cancelled, Avenged Sevenfold cancelled their headline tour because Matt's voice blew out, and so his entire summer last year was like, we saw him briefly after the news that the tour had been cancelled.
Yeah.
And this is a guy with kids, with rent to pay. Like, what are the realities facing people that are part of the road crew right now as part of this pandemic? Because at the moment, every time I'm interviewing a band, it doesn't feel like I can even talk to them about the possibility of touring, because no one knows, and that hits those guys when it is their whole life.
Yeah, it hits them harder than it does us, and I think that what we're trying to do with this is just create that awareness, because most people don't, like what you said before, most people don't understand that, like us, we can still do like things with you like this, or we can do live stream performances, or but nobody's going online and being like, okay, I want you to like set up the lighting rig and watch that. It's like
real.
They don't have that outlet, and
even if they're like even smart, like financially responsible people will, you're supposed to save up a 6-month like emergency fund, but who saves up like a year plus emergency fund? That's hard enough to do. Like it's just, and this is a lot of people in the world right now for sure, but our family is especially affected, and all the road families are, and like people, music lovers and people that see live music and like to watch live art know how much go into it, are like, a lot of them, hopefully they'll contribute. We've contributed. We're trying to help our guys out, and
if you can't, and if you're in a financial situation, we've been asking people like to absolutely go and donate whatever they can, but if they can't, we're encouraging everyone to make some videos, #RoadieStrong, tell some stories, create awareness, and just create this bigger ideas to hopefully put everybody in the right spot, and just direct everybody right to where it's needed.
Could you tell us a bit about the Crew Nation thing that is going on, and how people can contribute to that, as well as using the #RoadieStrong to kind of raise awareness for what's going on?
Yeah, you go to the Crew Nation website. I'm sure there's
also live.
Here's a link. No.
Where's the magical link? We have links all over our socials and everything, and we've been doing that. But I'm pretty sure it's livenation.com/
Crew Nation, yeah,
and
that sounds
should be
correct.
But
I don't remember these things. No, but there's some T-shirts there. I think there's a mask. Everyone needs a mask these days, and whatever. Those are little things, and I think it's cool. Like, I know every band has their own crew shirts to help their particular crew. We do too, and this kind of, like, we directed as soon as the form was up, like for roadies, you go and fill out a form and at the Crew Nation thing, and we sent our crew there. We're like, hey, get whatever help you can. Like, we weren't gonna. They weren't planning on working that much this year anyway. We only had a few shows lined up, but I mean, they were gonna be out with other bands. I mean, I'm sure they were gonna work, just not with us. But
yeah, well, our girl Detroit got this amazing gig with Rammstein. She was going to be one of their PAs and their personal assistants, and that didn't happen either. So it's just like, she was doing it for experience, but also that was like going to be a decent paycheck for her, and would have set her up. It would have set her up maybe for something like this. But so like I know the guys have had a couple different projects that they were thinking about doing while we had time off, that now they can't even do that. So none of us planned for this, and so we're kind of like, hey guys, we're all in this together.
You mentioned masks. What do your masks look like? Have you got any kind of funky designs on them?
we have I can't say lame because my mom sewed me.
The Halestorm mask.
Oh, our Halestorm.
They're not out yet.
No, they're not out yet.
They're
oh,
not
I'm
out
sorry.
yet.
I thought you meant us personally. My mom sewed me a mask, so mine isn't fun. My personal one.
Well,
That's what I meant.
We're gonna do one because we have a song called "Sick Individual." We're just gonna have "Sick Individual" on there, but people have thought maybe that's not a good idea.
And Halestorm thing. We had all these fun ideas like, oh yeah, that works, and we're like, wait, if people are walking around, so
timing is everything.
Allowed in anywhere.
All right. So I wanted to take you back to the very beginning of Halestorm. Well, not the very beginning because you were 12 years deep before the debut record. To talk a little bit and give us a bit of the story behind I Get Off. First and foremost, though, having been a band for 12 years at that point in time, making a debut record must have felt like the biggest thing in the universe.
Oh yeah, and we have an incredible. I mean, we lived like 6 different lifetimes making that record.
Yeah, we were kind of stuck out in California for 19 months trying to get that made, and it was crazy because we went out there. What was it? It was March 2007. We went and played South by Southwest, and we had our RV and kept driving. And our label was like, "Hey, there's some songwriters in LA. Just go out there and meet with some producers and stuff. Be out there a few weeks." We're like, "Cool. We haven't really spent time in LA. This is going to be awesome." And it was, and we started having a really good time. And
the exchanging of looks with the "we had a good time" told us everything there.
We did. We had a great time, but we also this was in 2007 and 2008 where the industry was changing. So during this whole process, I'm just going to kind of try to summarize we spent 19 months in LA from the time we got there to just be there a few weeks through to the mixing process of our first record. And we lived through an earthquake, a fire, a mudslide, a flood. Our A&R guy got fired, and so we were like floating in the ether for, all of our friends were getting dropped from the label, and we're like, I think we're next, guys. So literally every single time, and that is a small story for us, so every single time that something would happen like that, we would go down to, we were living in the Oakwoods apartments, and they had this like really like weird just corner store, and we got the most awful like cheap like $5 bottle of wine or something,
or champagne.
And that's where Here's to Us came from for the next record, because we would be like, all right, well, no matter what, if we're going home, it's all good. Here's to Us, guys. And like we tried, and the first guy that we wanted to do a record couldn't do it, and so it was a big mess trying to make this record. And so by the time it actually came out, it was more like relief than celebration. We're like, oh my god, we lived through it.
I remember we left Halloween night in 2008, started driving east to get back to Pennsylvania, and on the road trip, I remember Obama got elected.
Oh yeah,
and we were at a truck stop in Oklahoma when the news came on that he had won, and it was weird, man. There was weird vibes in the truck stop when it was just let's keep going.
Because we had
a pissed off truckers.
Because we were okay, we want to be oh, that's cool, but we're surrounded by all these people that are not happy about that. So oh god, yeah,
cool, it was, honey bunny.
It was a silly situation, but we lived through it, and so far we haven't had a experience making a record like that since. So.
No, it was awesome. We were living on
we got
a few $100 a month each, so it was I had my shit budgeted out. I had $95 I could spend a month for going out and having a beer, which in LA was 2 beers a month.
Yeah.
It was awesome, man.
It was
Best
great.
times.
It was great.
Was there a moment where it all felt like it was coming together? It sounds like chaos, and there is always the nagging thought in the back of the head when you're a young band, like you say, that the rug's going to get pulled out from under you. Is there a moment that stands out in the making of that record where you felt like you had something?
I remember feeling lucky because Atlantic hired Pete Gambar as like an outside A&R guy.
Yeah, he was like freelance.
Yeah, freelance to kind of like see our record through. And kudos to Atlantic for sticking with us, because it was when the industry was just bombing, you know. And but he like worked the record with us, and we didn't know how to put a record together that was gonna, you know, we were a live band first and foremost. So he kind of guided us through the process, him and Howard Benson, and then like while the record was being mixed, Atlantic hired Pete to be like the VP of A&R, the head of A&R or something. So we were his first projects. We're like, sweet. It's definitely going to get released, because they got to put out his first project, right? Yeah. Because, you know, we had so many friends and bands that were like made their debut album on a label, and then it gets shelved because the label all of a sudden decides they don't like it, or, you know, you never know. Yeah. Politics changes everything, and it's out of your control. So that was like, all right, we're going to get a release. This could be real, you know?
And what made I Get Off specifically the first single? Was that the thing that you were most into at that point in time that you'd done, or what was the story there?
We made it sound so weird because it was the one song on the record that we used baritone guitars on, and we like dropped it to B, and so it was like one of the more funkier sounding songs, and obviously, you know, it's a tricky subject. So we honestly just thought it was going to be something fun on the record. We didn't.
I thought it was an album track when they're like, it's going to be their, you know, the first single, and I was like, oh my god. Well, you know, that's not my job. I don't know how to push. We did
the same thing with Love Bites on the next record. Like, it's just enough. And then we won a Grammy for it. So it shows how much we know.
Not our job.
Thank God it's not our job. But it's interesting with I Get Off because that when we were trying to make ends meet and, you know, keep our stuff going in LA, we had this residency at the Viper Room. It was like every Wednesday or something in LA, and so we would play, and this one time our producer that we were talking, you know, Howard Benson, whom we were talking with about possibly doing the record, came to see us, and then so did Pete Gambar, because we had just met him. And Pete at this point had reviewed all 60, like we had like 62 or something songs, you know, for like dating way back from when I was like 17 or whatever. And he like narrowed some stuff down for me, like, hey, this collection of songs, like I could see on a record. So like he really helped like organize that. But he had never seen us live. So this was the one time they came to the Viper Room, and they saw us live, and I literally like, I loved the fact that there's like these two, you know, middle-aged, you know, Jewish guys sitting there, you know, and trying to be cool. And then at one point in time in the set, they literally like stood up and started like dancing and like clapping. and I remember thinking on stage, like, this is the best feeling in the world, because if I can make them get up and dance. So that developed into like, you know, like, I don't know, I liked the fact that you liked me, and I love the way that you love me, kind of thing. And then I'm like, and then like that evolved into, well, I get off on you getting off on me, and then you could play with all sorts of innuendos. So it was just a lot of fun to like put together and write. And but like I said, like we made that thing like the heaviest song on our record at the time. We're like, no one's gonna listen to this. So it's like, it's just going to be a fun thing we can do live. And then so
something that really stands out when I go back and listen to it is like, I'm not sure I could be compared, or any of us could be compared to the people we were back in 2007, so when this was written. But there is a lot of the Lizzie that we've come to know and love on that song. Do you feel like that song is still relatable? Like, what role does that song play in your life in 2020? With it being the first breakout hit as well?
Well, I have to say, first and foremost, that I haven't matured much, so I think that a lot of that still in me. But it's different now, because, you know, it's an older song, but it becomes new every time we play it live, because now it's not just our song, it's not just my song, it's theirs. You know, it gets to be theirs, and I get to see the song through new eyes every night that we play, you know, and, you know, every time somebody posts it or something, I'm just like, oh, that's so cool, you know. So I don't know, I think it was an important foundation, you know, for then things to come. And I feel like, you know, I've finessed it a little bit hopefully I've gotten better at my songwriting since then. But
I'm just glad people liked it.
Yeah,
that helps.
It's not something that you enjoy, all you want, but it's whether or not it connects with people, and it's funny though, because it made a lot of people uncomfortable, and I think that in turn, I used that as kind of fuel to the fire, because then every record I'm just like, okay, how can I push that envelope? So it was a really good kind of starting point for okay, how much can I make people a little on edge?
Joe, what's your relationship with that song? Does it feel like a lifetime ago? We've just recorded a debut record and we've got this song.
Oh yeah, that we're like you were saying, we were totally different people back then, and we were hustle. We're still hustling, but we were hungry hustling, and we're busting our ass, and it was just it was a different time. It was a lifetime ago. Being able to sit in a room like this now with all our toys around us is that was a pipe dream back then. You never really knew if what was happening or what would happen. You're just doing what you loved, and
we were making demos duct taped, we would have these cheap microphones. We would duct tape them to the wall in the closet, and try to make some kind of a booth with the comforter and with the duct tape, and it's and now we have our own home studio and all of that. So it just, I mean, you never run out of dreams, but it's really crazy to look back at that. And little bro RJ drops some knowledge. He's part alien crazy person and then part old wise owl. Every now and then he'll just kind of spaz out and be just hey, check this out. And he said he said something a little while ago, because I said something off the cuff. I'm are we crazy for doing this? This is nuts, that we're doing this. He's like, yes, absolutely, we're crazy. Absolutely, we are crazy for being in a rock band, but we weren't stupid. it was a good idea. So it's I think that kind of sums up where we're at now, I guess. That's
awesome. Can I get you to give one more shout out to #Roadie Strong before I let you get on?
Yeah,
absolutely. So guys, this is a call to arms, not only to all of our bands people, but all of our fans as well, to try to create awareness for what is happening with our favorite people in the world, all of the roadies, the people that that literally they make the budgets, they make sure that there's, all the problems are solved. There are security, there are assistants, there are lighting people, like the rock shows that you see, not just specifically our show, but any rock show that you go see, it would not be the same without them.
You should get a shirt, a really strong shirt, or a crew shirt for whatever your favorite band is, to support their crew, and then wear it to their show whenever we all get to play again, and let the crew know that you supported them, and see where that takes you.
I love that. Check it out. It's Live Nation's Crew Nation. Lizzie Howell, Joe Hottiger, thank you so much for being on our first ever episode. Stay safe, and I'll see you guys soon.
Yeah. See you, bud.
Cheers, bye. So that is it for this pilot episode of Mosh Talks. Thank you so much for being with us. Honestly, there has been so much technical stuff and mishaps that have happened, but that is basically what we're going to be doing here every single Tuesday. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. I'll be back for more Mosh Talks next Tuesday. See you next Tuesday for more Mosh Talks. Bye.